what do you make of an industry having that much power where people are literally willing to sell themselves and be exploited? Hollywood is dying and Jesus might raise it. What do you make of The Chosen?
Ruslan.
The perception that people see of Hollywood is that like it's intrinsically anti-God.
Yeah.
And would you say that there's truth to that? Or would you say it's just so pure capitalistic that like whatever drives the bottom line is what's going to get people?
I think it's whatever drives the bottom line.
Okay.
You know, you're going to get some people, handful of people who are going to be like, I don't want to like, you know, deal with anything Christian. But at the end of the day, like, you know, Hollywood isn't blue, ain't red. Hollywood is green. That's all that matters. It's a corporation. It's a business. That's why you see, you know, studios like Lionsgate where they signed the deal with the Irwin brothers, and they're doing all of these Christian movies. Right? Netflix is trying to capitalize on that, and I think Devon Franklin just signed a deal with Netflix to do faith-based movies. Why? Because there's a market for it. At the end of the day, it's a business for them. You know what I mean? It's not. And if they could find something that is going to make them money, whether they like it or not, they're going to go after that to make that. And even right now, Hollywood is in dire straits. Hollywood is in a really, really bad spot because a lot of what they've been, well, one, the strikes played a role in it. Two, inflation is people are not going to movie theaters the way they used to anymore. These blockbusters that they've spending $180, $150 million on, they're losing money. Madam Web lost tons of money. Fall Guy, $180 million film with Ryan Gosling, a big movie star, and Emily Blunt, flopped, lost money. Even this recent Furiosa film, Mad Max, $80 million. It's not going to ever make its budget back. And so Hollywood is beginning to realize that if we don't change, movie theaters across the country are shutting down. Movie theaters, you know what I mean? And so Hollywood is beginning to realize we need to minimize our budgets and we need to do films that connect with the audience the way they connected with audiences in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Because if we don't, we will not survive. The only
is that real, huh?
Is that real, brother?
Wow.
Is that real? You know, there's people retiring out of Hollywood because they're like, I can't get a job. I can't work. And so it all comes back to, you know, the content and minimizing the budgets. And so Hollywood is not in a position to say, oh, you know, this is a Christian film or this is a, you know, film about, you know, this person or whatever, so we're not going to make it. Hollywood's in a position where we got to make what's going to make money. You know, Sound of Freedom is a good example of that because Sound of Freedom made...
Well, it's interesting because like as Hollywood is almost, it would sound from the way you're describing it, like providentially coming to the end of itself.
It kind of is.
Right?
It kind of is.
And so now, and all along, there's an emerging audience that seems to only, I can't quantify if the Christian consumer is growing in numbers, but definitely growing in connection and support of the things they care about. And that seems to be rising up. Hollywood is struggling, right? And so it's like, how crazy would it be if Christian films and Christian media ends up being the thing that rescues it and changes it?
And that's not necessarily Christian film, but just straight good stories without all the other, you know, political spin on it. The movies that we grew up, Arnold, you know, like what was the movie? Predator, Die Hard. It was just about a good dude, you know, going after a bad dude. You know what I mean? And Amazon is starting to see this with the success of Terminalist and some of these other shows that they're doing. They're just like the middle American audience has been essentially forgotten. And they're a big audience. It's not just about the Christian audience. It's about the middle American audience, people who just want to see big dudes with guns, taking out bad dudes, getting after it, saving the day. That audience still exists. And if you give them what they want, they will come. And it's a big audience. It's a big pot of pie. And Amazon is starting to realize that. And like I said, with Terminalist and Fallout and some of these other shows that are coming out, they're like, dude, like people want this male-driven, you know, content that was put out in the 80s and 90s and made Hollywood a lot of money.
Yeah, because even a lot of the action shows, they'll have like a female lead and she's like beating up all the dudes.
No, that's just like, like 110 pounds soaking wet, killing like 10 dudes fighting. It's like,
yeah. Is that possible with the women Navy SEALs like that?
I've never seen one. But you know, but that's not to say.
Has there ever been? There's never been a female.
No. There've been females who have made it into SEAL training, but not one has made it even to Hell Week, from what I understand. But there are films where you have like Aliens. Sigourney Weaver. She was a phenomenal freaking female protagonist. You know what I mean? And that's a classic film. Even Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Like Sarah Connor. Phenomenal freaking, you know, story arc and story character and all of that stuff. And it wasn't, and she wasn't beating up 30. She was doing what she could do within her capacity. And and it was realistic. It was realistic.
Yeah. So it's good. So it almost sounds like you're saying Hollywood is dying and Jesus might raise it.
Hopefully.
From the ashes.
Hopefully.
What do you make of The Chosen?
I've only watched one episode, and the first part of it, and that was actually on Memorial Day. You know, we watched part of it, but my kids were going crazy, so I haven't really dived deep into it yet.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest shows in the world right now in terms of just their sheer reach and all that kind of stuff.
That's Netflix. Too,
yeah. They got season 1 on Netflix. They're releasing season 4 now, and they're shooting season 5 now. But I mean, they've been able to build an amazing following for that, and initially do it very low budget.
Yes.
And now the budgets are increasing, and the show is getting good. Yeah. Like those first couple episodes are fairly slow. Yeah. But as it builds, especially you get into season 3. Was it season 3? Yeah, season 3, the walking on water scene. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most. I saw it in theaters. So the walking on water scene is one of the most incredible cinematic things I've ever seen. It's incredible.
And then the quality of it looked good.
Phenomenal. Wow. Phenomenal. Yeah. And they show like I didn't even know how they pulled it off. And they showed the making of it. And so now they're getting into a place where they have the support and the budget. But to your point, like I think that is becoming the prototype because they're seeing how much groundswell there is for that.
Yes.
Which is then, I would say, transferring over to stuff like Jesus Revolution doing well,
that did well
on like a $15 million budget. Like it was a small budget, and then it does like 20 million first week or something crazy. So I think those two things in motion is probably what's causing what you're seeing happening on a studio's level. And now the Erman brothers, I think they're doing a show on the life of David. I want to say that's what they're working on in Greece. Yeah, because.
Is it a movie or a TV show?
It's a TV show. It's a multi-series, multi-season TV show. Right. So Pastor Greg Laurie is out there right now. He's going to come on the channel and talk about more about that project and specifically what they're doing there. Hollywood, the music industry, there still seems to be a degree of, how do I say this, like playing into people's dreams and hopes to be famous and significant, which is usually coming from a broken place anyway. Like anyone that needs validity from the world and to be famous and known and recognized is probably dealing with something in their soul, you know? But the exploitation of that by the you know, the folks in Hollywood that we've seen do these sorts of things, right? Most notably Harvey Weinstein. And now it's coming out that Diddy was doing the same exact thing with the music stuff and the freak offs and the parties he was throwing and video recording all these executives and people, who much of that, who knows what's going to come out. But like, what do you make of an industry having that much power where people are literally willing to sell themselves and be exploited? You know what I mean? And is it like at will, right? Seemingly like I want the contract, so I'll be willing to do X, Y, and Z to potentially get the upper hand. And just the power of that world, and like what do you make of all that, man? As someone that's been successful in the industry.
Yeah, I mean it's real, it exists, and you know, it's sad. It's very, very sad, but it all comes back down to the individual. Like, what are you going to allow? Like, are you going to allow somebody to walk all over you, or are you going to allow yourself to sell yourself in order to make it? You know, it goes back to the old scripture: what profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? You know what I mean? It's fire is fire. If there's a fire pit right here, I can make the choice to put my hand in the fire and burn myself, or I can make the choice to just allow the fire to keep me warm. You know what I mean? It all comes back to choices. And so does that exist in Hollywood, where there are people who play on people's emotions and on their desires to try to be successful and famous? Absolutely. But then there are also people that choose to put their hands in the fire, you know, and get burnt. you know?
Yeah. What advice would you have for someone that's aspiring to be successful as an actor in Hollywood, which is a very difficult path in general, but then to even get into the psychology of like what acting is, and you're really trying to tap into those aspects of your emotions, and a lot of actors lose their mind in that process, right? Like if they play a very dark character, and then like that ends up manifesting in real life, right? What advice would you have for folks that are like, man, that's so cool you get to do that, I want to do something like that, you know? And what would your advice be to them?
My advice would be make sure that it's going back to where we started this podcast. Where's your identity? You know what I mean? Like where's your identity? Who's your identity rooted in? Like, why is it that you want to do this? Is it for yourself? Is it for personal gain? Or is it something? Do you feel like there's a bigger calling behind the call, essentially? And so that would be my advice. And then once you get anchored in that, then you could go through the process of trying to make it in a business. But that would be my biggest advice. Like, you have to ask yourself, like, you know, why? Why do I want to be in this business? And, you know, and it's not just something you ask yourself one time. Like, I have to ask myself that often. Dude, Remy, like this is a tough business. Like, why do you still want to be in this business? Because I know God has me. Because I know God wants me to tell these stories to bring glory to him.
All right, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And it would be remiss of me to not tell you about our biggest sale of the year, our Father's Day sale happening right now. You can get our brand new Bless God Prayer Journal at the cheapest price it's ever been, as well as some pretty fire priest, provider, protector launch that's perfect for the husband, the father, or the mentor in your life. So go to blessgod.shop and pick up something right now. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.